Okay, it looks like real quick. Anyway, as a man, I accepted all the responsibilities, marital and parental, and yet, when your creator, I don't use the word God anymore because they've actually even if you study it, that word doesn't even really mean your father in heaven, your creator. They've twisted everything around through the evil one's use of your fellow men, or if they were men, or whatever they are, I don't know. But in the course of events, if you are exposed to literally miracles that happen to you for whatever reason and are difficult as a human to interpret, because like I say, as you take on the responsibilities, marital, parental, etc., and life in general, those things that are actually miracles that do not happen, that would have to be, how could they be set in the background when you explain them and tell people about it? And if they realize what you're saying and the phenomena of what occurred, they can do nothing else but question where it came from, how it happened. And what I'm going to explain to you is what miracles did happen to me in one particular instance, or three. In relating that to you, I need to get away from the marital and parental responsibilities for a moment to tell these, because obviously they happened for a reason, and if that reason is to communicate them so that if nothing else, he rescues those who are willing to hear them that may have never heard them before, or whatever motive it is. I feel like it's always a good motive when it comes to your creator, because you can sense that nothing that he does is evil. Yet there's another lurking in the world, and all the things that go on so obviously and apparently filled with greed and short-sightedness and trickery and lies, that those of us that don't live in that world have a hard time accepting that it's real. And that's a problem also because, as I've just talked about before, we're given the knowledge of good and evil. Where do you get to, in whatever the big picture is, whether it's we were chose to be here, and we're all looking to move up to another ladder. But whatever the case is, there is a creator out there who is completely loving, and to be able to be loving, to be able to be as good, and he cannot be exposed to anything evil. Can't be around it. I can understand that. That makes sense. But, these thoughts and these answers were not something I had until asked to be born again, or accepted it. And at that point, although I knew for a long time, even when I was a child, that Christ was around, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. I felt his presence, or an angel's presence. I don't know, I Christ's presence, so I assume it'd be, I don't know, whatever, but I felt the presence there from very early on, from the moment I could conceive a thought. And I don't know if you did or not. That's fine. I'm not saying I'm any more blessed or any less blessed, or that, but that's the way it was. And I would ask even some ridiculous, what should I do? Because I knew that entity was there. And that entity got me out of a lot of trouble, maybe he kept me alive long enough, because, I'm a guy and do a lot of stupid, dangerous and pushing it to the edge stuff. We do that. I don't know, it's just whether we live life, or we're physical beings that come here to experiment. And funny thing is you find out, once you gain the Holy Spirit, that he loves you even for that. He loves you even for your stupidity, because it really is. It's a capacity to have that love. You cannot be around evil. That makes sense. And if you think you just came from a pond scum and weren't created, you don't have the soul in you, then maybe you're not the one that's supposed to be accepting this message. But I'm going to get to the message of the miracles that happened shortly, but I'm just going to introducing him in how I came to it. So, although I knew of the presence of, I assumed Christ, maybe it is an angel. I know some people have different thoughts, but the power of Christ has got to be immense, whether he's a man and lived and died as a man and came back and resurrected, and the whole story comes out whenever you ask. Also, when you ask to be born again, and you start asking questions of, well, why, what, when, and where, to all kind of stuff, you can get answers. And I don't want to go in too far into those uh, on this message, because the best thing is to be focused on the miracles that happen and further teachings. If you accept and understand the miracles that happen, and realize at that point that there is a higher power than yourself, and you're not going to be in a test tube and put in a hive mind process. That you're not going to allow your soul to be stolen that way. That those of you who hear this and are rescued by hearing this, by realizing that there is a higher power and what this all means, and at that point then ask to be introduced to the Holy Spirit, and you will actually be amazed. So many answers that come to you. Everything, evil, good, whatever, it's can be explained. So and sometimes it comes in the form of hearing it from someone else, a video, reading something. Sometimes it just comes out of thin air. Anyway, excuse me. The point that I need to make here, for whatever reason, and who's going to hear this, I don't know. Yeah, but since this happened to me, and apparently doesn't happen to anyone else that I've ever talked to, there's a deeper meaning to it, I'm sure. Many times I've learned that he will do things, like if I ask him to heal a dog just to prove to someone that he exists, he'll do it. That's a lot of love. So when you realize that and you accept that and you see it happen, you know, and it's hard to explain because most people in this world don't believe that. They don't believe that you can actually literally heal someone's pet by saying to them, you know what, I'm going to pray for your pet and he's going to be well. You know what, I'm going to get you introduced to your soulmate in 2 weeks. Just to prove that he's there. All you gotta do is ask. Sometimes they'll even totally forget that they asked. Yet in 2 weeks, I've seen it happen. They met their soulmate. Happiness is there and not to be taken away. But he doesn't punish if you forget, because he's like a father. Because he is apparently all of our Father, and I think he smiles at our happiness, just like we do with our children. If you have children, it's easy to understand what I'm saying. If you don't, it's a little more difficult, I'm sure, but the love you have for your children is just unsurpassed. It's almost, even the stupid things they do, you can't help but love them. So I never realized that even the stupid things I did my Creator still loved me, and I just felt guilty and punished. Like, and that's what they tried to do. You know, once you learn that a lot of the Bible has actually been overtaken by men, and the trickery of the evil one by saying, "Oh, if you can't, you have to believe every word. It's blasphemous." Well, you know what? Uh, as end times coming near or something, I don't know, and I'm not proving that. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you have the Ethiopian Bible, and you have a lot of things that have, and the internet, of course, that never would have been given us the ability for common men to communicate. And if you say, well, that's mean, why you take all this time and all these people and you just have, well, you know what? It's funny thing is, someone else said the same thing I did the other day, that here you got Bill Gates and his cronies trying to euthanize, using eugenics to eliminate the population of the earth, not realizing that probably since Adam, everyone that has lived has come back during this time. And is alive for the end times. Possibly. That would be kind of a oxymoron or ironic treatment for the eugenicists, the Georgia Guidestones. Oops. We didn't believe in that God. We believed in our God. And He told us He created this world. And He told us that Jesus was the evil one who tried to lock us up. Well, let me ask you this, and a simple question, and then you can go on, and I'll go on with the story. If their God is so good, why does He create all this suffering and wars? And because He's not good. He rescued the Jews from an exodus from Israel, and end up, if they got hungry or thirsty, He killed 10,000 of them. And to solve that problem of us realizing that God is not your creator, your father, that Christ has told you about, the churches tell you can't, that's blasphemous. You have to believe every word of it. You can't believe that. You have to realize that you only have one life to live, and this is it. I don't know. I think probably we've keep coming back. I don't know how many times, but if your soul's out there, it's not extinct. You come back, and what do you? I think it seems like you have a choice to come back, and what do you do? Who knows? You're not supposed to remember it, I would imagine. It would probably be pretty confusing. I'm sure that some parts of it we do remember to help us survive. Well, there's just, the instinctual reptilian use of, but I can throw a knife really well, and I never practice or anything, and I can actually realize when I throw a knife, it's as if I've done it before. And I'm just saying that I'm not really have that really good hand-eye coordination in this lifetime, in this body, but apparently at one time I could throw a knife very well. I guess that's still there. I don't know how. Tennis, all that other stuff, isn't it? Not, but so anyway, just illustrating a point that you're what you've been told in the Bible and the preachers and those they're religious. They're making a living off of it, and they're not necessarily evil, but in their hearts they're told that that is the only way, and that you only live once and you come back at Judgment Day. Well, if you knew that you might come back again, perhaps you would be more carefree, or would you be more evil, or what? I don't know. I think you would. I think many of the good people would not work so hard, but realize that they're here to enjoy this life and do good with it. And that instead of simply supporting and thinking one chance, they would realize they had a message to give. That's the way I think about it. I don't know, everybody lived different if they knew they would be born again. And in I think in India they believe in reincarnation. I'm not sure how their belief is. It's just that I would probably assume here that they don't necessarily know our Creator as well as we've been shown through Christ, but they realize the truth of some, and just like our religions, they've been absconded by men and switched around and changed over, and those people that do that, many of them are good, but many of them are supported by the evil one, who hates you, jealous. So where did he come from? Well, just like all of God's creations, free will is the method that is always impugned, because what would be the point of creating beings, entities, and not giving them free will, not allowing them to see the world as you have created it? It really wouldn't have any vision. Now, there are those that were actually children of the evil one, Cain and his offspring, and even though after the flood they came back, I don't think there's that many of them, but they're very, very corrupt. And you think about this, if you were without morals, how rich could you be? Especially if you were supported by a being that is very powerful and knowledgeable, and been the immortal, basically was here when the earth was created, and sees all these things. and knows the ins and outs of how we feel and how to utilize our feelings to get rich. Because we end up working as a slave and buying from them and supporting them. And if you had knowledge of it, like, for instance, the computer, it's a piece of shit, other than it's getting this message to you. It's apparently okay, good and bad, but it is also just like a tool that's an improvement. Well, that tool, if you're the first one to buy it and use it and you're in a trade, well, suddenly you're making more money than your competitors. So they end up having to buy that tool and use it. And after a while, everyone's got it and you're back to square one. So if you were an entity and you knew how things work and you had certain underlings that, I mean, invention, no, it's a great thing, but all the things we invent to improve our lives, they do, and we have to realize the good and bad in everything, though. Right, the good side of it is there are so many people in the United States, at least, up until now, they're trying to get rid of that, change that. I don't know, there's some trickery going on. But there is a huge amount of people that are living like 200 years ago. Only a king could live. You have air conditioning and all these things. So all of them are physical things that we get to enjoy and make our life better. But at the same time, they're enslaving us because we all have to have them. And it just keeps going on and on and on. We never drop any of it. Like a nail gun, for instance. First got a nail gun, then you could frame your houses faster than everybody else, and everybody had to get a nail gun. So now everyone's using nail guns, which is fine. You build houses a lot faster for a lot more people, so there's good. The bad of it is everyone has to have the nail gun. So I'm just using that for an illustration. This is probably one of the better. But there are inventions like that. So the point being with this is that the evil one has a handle on this world. And he manages to make a few choice elites wealthy and in control of this physical world. He didn't create it. And if you understand that the very first part of the Old Testament is our latest rendition of creation of human beings, starting with Adam, and it was actually only about 2,000 or 6,000 years. And although we were explained, I never knew this until just recently, that the watchers, these angels that were supposed to come watch man, came down before Noah's time, even, I wonder if they were probably sent for a reason, but anyway, they came down. They tried to make life easier, I guess, but then they instead decided they want to make life easier for themselves. They're going to experience some of this physical themselves, because what we are is we are living soul entities that were created to enjoy the physical reality of the world that was created by our Father. Now, for whatever reason, whether he takes off part of himself or whatever, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've been asked. Maybe I'll answer, but I probably could get an answer. But he has basically his children, and I don't think probably if it's good as you have to be totally. That's why he left Adam in the garden when he first created this. I think the earth was probably here. I don't know but he did create the Adam and Eve in that time, and he started a new group of humans, and that's when the evil one came in. So if you, this is just trying to explain to you, I think I'm making this video for those of us who may not be exposed to much of any belief in our Creator and Christ, our brother, and his mother is the Holy Spirit, who basically the feminine side of this alliance, since she is able to, through Christ, give us answers, but we don't get that unless we are born again. You can't buy your way. It has to be sincere. That's why if I'm giving you this message, you can actually yourself experience it, because once you believe and realize that you do have a Creator, and all that other stuff is evil. And you have to recognize it evil. And, maybe it's just a test. You're here and you're going to move up to another one. Or maybe we'll go to another earth. Who knows? I don't know. And it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you recognize a way from